How much can you trust what people are saying who are on steroids? Meaning, there's a lot of bodybuilders out there who take steroids and then also have like advice channels. How much of that can you really trust? You have to understand that these guys, everything they're saying is coming from either theory or it's coming from personal experience, right? In general, there's great advice out there, and there's a million avenues to find that. It's in books, it's in YouTube channels, it's everywhere. But what exactly is going to work for you? Again, if somebody's talking about theory, it might apply to you, it might not apply to you. If somebody is talking about their personal experience and they're on steroids, that's probably not going to apply to you in general. You have to find what works for you, and you have to find the right balance of what works for you and when to apply it. There's a lot more that goes into it than like, oh, just eat this amount of calories or just restrict this amount of calories or just you have to factor in your height, you have to factor in your weight, you have to factor in your energy output, you have to factor in, how much work you're doing per day. Is your work physical? How much energy you have, your own personal physiology, what, how do you react to certain supplements? Some people react differently. People have different physiology, right? So if somebody's like, oh, just go take this amino acid or go take this supplement, that supplement might not be good for you. It might not work for your body. It's through trial and error, right? And then again, you have to factor in the fact that a lot of these people giving advice are on steroids. It's a cheat code. It just is. You are in amazing, awesome shape, whether you're super buff or whether you're just ripped and in great shape. That's from steroids. A lot of that is from steroids. It's not to say they don't work hard. You absolutely work hard, but you have a 70% or 5 times, 10 times more ability to recover than other people. It's just like having a head start. It's like being born rich or something. You're just doing way better. There's people out there who have great bodies naturally, but it took them like 10, 15, 20 years to get to that point. I'm not saying you can't see results quickly, but it's certainly not going to be, you're not going to have the body that you want, that you covet and desire in 6 months. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have the body that you want in a year. It might take 5 years if you're going to go the natural route. This is why a lot of people opt out of that and start going, start taking steroids, right? Start going the unnatural anabolic route, right? And it's tempting, but you're hurting and you're harming your organs, you're harming your brain, you're harming your endocrine system, probably messing with all kinds of things, your pineal gland, your liver, your kidneys, so much is being damaged by that, and it's ultimately not worth it. For a little bit of glory, you might have an amazing body, but can you do that your whole life? I mean, somebody like Mike O'Hearn, for example, is able to, he's figured out some formula where he's, I think he's almost 60 or he's in his early 60s, something like that, late 50s at least, and he is still on steroids. How long is he going to be able to do that? There might be a point in time where it just doesn't work for him. Now, it's not to say that he doesn't do a lot of other great things, such as eating healthy food or taking healthy supplements. And he also started out with a great foundation of genetics, right? So there's going to be, exceptions. There's always exceptions. But most of the people who took steroids and had a great body for maybe a decade or 2 decades if they're lucky, it all goes away. Look at Arnold. I mean, of course, these guys are in their 70s, and so you got to say, okay, at some point it just can't last forever. And you know, I salute somebody like Mike O'Hearn, and hats off to somebody like Mike O'Hearn who has the dedication and the persistence to do what he does at his age. But you got to factor in steroids to look like that. Now, it's not to say that you can't. You know, I saw Robbie Robinson. I think he's 78 years old. He's an ex-bodybuilder, and he's still killing it, you know, at his age, and he looks amazing for his age. He looks better than most 20-year-olds. You can go look him up, but he for sure took steroids in the 70s, probably the 80s, and you know, he took them for however long. And he had an amazing physique. He had an amazing body. In fact, his body is the sculpture of Joe Weider's brand, the Weider's, whatever brand they have. I think it's called the Weider brand or whatever. But that sculpture with Joe Weider's face is on Robbie Robinson's body. I just found that out recently. That's how great his body was. But he was on steroids, so he's also an exception, right? He's somebody who took steroids probably for maybe a decade or two, and was able to pull back and stopped. And I'm sure Jay Cutler's still on steroids. He's still working out. Sad story of Ronnie Coleman, and there's a million other sad stories, right? Of guys who just, their organs are shutting down, they're dying, whatever. You know, you got Rich Piana. You know, every other week, you know, you turn around and there's a bodybuilder who died. Not to mention, you know, all the psychological stuff that goes on. A lot of bodybuilders have a lot of psychological problems, depression, etc., because it messes with your hormones. You're playing with your hormones, right? So it's not good to rely. It's cool to get motivated, you know, it's cool to watch the videos, be like, oh man, look how buff this guy is. It motivates you, but if your goal is to look like that, it's not going to happen naturally. There's just absolutely no way. You can look great naturally. You can look amazing naturally. But a couple things. First of all, it's going to take a really long time. We're talking 5 years. We're talking 10 years. You know, dedication, persistence, discipline, right? I mean, discipline, right? You know, if you're natural, to get to that point, you can't cut any corners if you're natural. You know, for the most part, you got to nail your diet. You got to nail consistency. And a lot of people just do not have that in them. A lot of people don't have that drive. They don't have that dedication. You got to love what you're doing. You got to love working out. You got to love lifting weights. You have to, otherwise you're not going to make it. You're not going to get where you want to go, or you just want to get where you want to go so bad that you're willing to suffer through it. But a lot of people don't like working out. A lot of people don't think exercise and working out is very fun, but it's necessary, right? So a lot of what happens is people just lose patience and they're like, okay, I'm just going to hop on steroids. Or you just don't want to wait and you're like, screw it, I want to get girls, I want to be buff, it's worth it to me. And then this is where you got this trend of young people hopping on, which is pretty sad, because, you know, at least let your body develop, at least wait until you're 25, 26, 27, when your body and your brain is starting to be fully developed and you're fully coming into your adult body, then maybe. But even then, it's just dumb, you know. The only reason and the only way you should do it is if you just absolutely want to become, you know, big like that, and you just don't care. And you know, I liken it to a drug or drinking or alcohol, or even like joining a gang. Like, you're playing with fire, you know, you're putting your life at risk. People today say, oh, drugs are safe, they're not that bad, but you never know. For one, you never know. For two, I wouldn't even say they're safe. I would say that, you know, at least they're damaging. At most, they could take your life, you know, at any time. At most, you know, at least they're damaging. To what extent are they damaging? It's up to you, you know, or I shouldn't say it's up to you. It's up to your body. It's up to chance. It's up to however your body reacts to them. but they're at the, you know, you're gonna walk away with damage, period, if you take steroids. So at the end of the day, it's like, is it worth it? To me, no, because I like longevity, and not only that, I don't think my body could handle it because I have a very sensitive body, which I like. I like having a sensitive body because it lets me know right away, oh, I shouldn't be eating this food, or oh, I shouldn't drink that, because my body will tell me right away. It'll be like, nope, I don't like this. I feel bad. I feel bad, and then I'll stop doing what I'm doing. I'll stop taking that supplement, or I'll stop eating that food, and then it goes back to normal, and I feel better, and so I'm happy with that. And so I think if I started taking steroids, my body would be like, it would just shut down, or it would just, I don't know if I could tolerate it. So in a sense, it's good to be sensitive, because it just lets you know right away that you're doing something wrong. A lot of people aren't sensitive. This is why a lot of people can smoke for 40 years or eat terrible food for 40 years. They just don't feel that bad. They're just like whatever, or they're just not in tune with their body, or whatever reason. They just, you know, but then all of a sudden they have a heart attack, or all of a sudden they got cancer, you know, so it's just like, you know, all of a sudden they got a stroke and they're gone, you know. And so it's like, you got to be smart, and you got to plan the rest of your life. It's like, do you want to live to 70 or 80? Then don't do those things. You know, if you don't care, if you're like, you know, I don't even care if I live past 60. I don't care if I live past 50, because I want to have my fun now, and I want to reap the benefits now, and this is what I want right now. And so you're thinking in the short term. Like, okay, you might get 10 years of glory, you might get 20 years of glory, or however, whatever glory means for you, because there's not going to be any more Arnolds. Bodybuilding isn't popular like that anymore. There's not going to be any more, you know, bodybuilding superhero movie stars anymore. That era is all over. You know, Arnold did it, Stallone did it, The Rock did it, you know, and that's like 3 guys. Like, who else was buff and had a great movie career? Who else was buff and got rich? Like, nobody. Like, you know, it's not going to happen for 99.9999999% of people, right? You might be 1 in a trillion, but I doubt it for most people. Really, what guys want is, they're like, oh, you know what, I want to get buff, I want to go out and get laid, I want to have these muscles so I can impress girls. That's probably what most guys who start taking steroids are thinking, and it might work. You might get some girls, or you could just develop social skills. You could develop some game, or some confidence, some charisma, figure out how to talk to women and do it that way. Yeah, muscles will impress women, but is it worth it? Okay, you get laid for 5 or 10 years, or let's say, you know, you go on a 20-year run. Is it always going to be good? Is it always going to, you know, is there going to be any problems within that 20 years? Is there going to be any, you know, hiccups or pitfalls or roadblocks? Of course, right? Is it going to last? Probably not. You know, most people think, oh, not me, I'm going to be great, you know. It's just, life has a tendency not to work out that way. So at the end of the day, you got to be like, is this really worth it? Is it worth it to risk my health? And I wouldn't even say, you know, I wouldn't even use that word risk. I would say, is it worth it to hurt my health? Because you're for sure going to hurt your health. Is it worth it to take this hit, whatever this hit may be? I might die at 40, right? It's a realistic reality. People who are on steroids die at 40, they die at 50, they die at 60. Do you want to have those last 20 years of your life taken away? You might last till 80 if you eat right and do and exercise and do well in a natural way. You might live till 80. Do you want those last years? Some people don't care. They're just like, you know what, after 60 it sucks. Who cares about life after 60, you know? Okay, well, if that's your attitude, maybe steroids are for you. I don't know. But I think probably it's best that most people, you know, hey, I want to have a family, I want to have, you know, a good life, I want to be successful, and then at that point you should consider being natural. At that point you should consider, yeah, if I want to have a family, I want to live long enough to see my grandkids, you know, I enjoy reading, or I enjoy, you know, writing, or I enjoy going for walks, because you can do nice stuff up until, you're almost gone in life. You can do nice little things if you enjoy those. But if you're just like, fuck life, I don't care about life, I don't care about, who cares about the last 20 years, then maybe that's for you. I don't know. But anyway, you can't take you gotta take their advice with a grain of salt. It's all about the clicks, it's all about the views, it's all about the monetization. They're going to tell you every little detail and piece of advice and tidbit in books, and et cetera, et cetera. It's all been done and done and done and done, right? And it's in every video, and you can get some great advice out there, but you got to find what works for you. And the best advice is just, hey, lift weights, do 3 or 4 sets per muscle group, do 5 to 15 reps, use a good heavy weight that you can lift 5 to 15 reps, and rest and get enough protein and get enough carbs. And that's the basics, man. And that will build muscle. I mean, sure, a lot more goes into it. Sure, you need certain amino acids. Sure, you need maybe creatine. Sure, you need to cook your food a certain amount, a certain way, or eat this type of food, or have, maybe this type of rice is better than that type of rice, or, sure, eat your vegetables. All those things are, all those things come into it. But the real truth is that the basic stuff is not that hard to figure out. And you just have to figure it out for yourself. And you have to, apply it to your life in a consistent way, in a dedicated, disciplined way, and then you'll start to see results. And it'll be slow. It might be a year or 2 years before you start to be like, dang, I'm starting to get the body that I've always wanted. I'm starting to get these muscles but you're not going to look like a bodybuilder, and you're not going to look like a fitness model, probably not. But you're going to look damn good for you and for your body type and for your genetics. And you got to figure out, I need a slimmer waist, so I need to adjust my diet this way, or I need to adjust these exercises, or my calves are lacking, so I need to start doing these exercises, or my chest needs better thickness in the middle, so I need to do these exercises, or those are little small adjustments. But in general, you just do basic weightlifting exercises, you do basic cardio, and you eat basic good food. You eat your right proteins, you eat your right carbs, and that's it. And then it just takes time. And then you got to get enough rest and grow and things like that. But there's a lot to factor in as far as what's my energy like, how many times should I work out per week, what is my personal ability, because everybody has different abilities. Some guys have more energy than others, some guys have less time than others, some guys work harder jobs than others. And so there's no one size fits all. And so if you're not seeing results in the way that you want, don't be like, I'm a failure, my body's never going to grow. You got to factor in all the things that are keeping you from being where you want to be. It might be that you work too hard of a job. It might be that you don't have enough time. It might be that your body is not responding well to a certain type of training. It might be that your body is just slowly growing, or it might be that you need to switch up your nutrition. There's a lot that goes into it. But you can't look at guys who are like obviously taking steroids and be like, oh man, they made it, why can't I be? It's like somebody who just got lucky, had money and got rich or something, or somebody who's born into wealth and they're like, yeah, I did it, why can't you do it? It's like, well, I'm glad it worked for you, but it might not work for me. So there's a lot to factor in. But yeah, in general, be careful who you take advice from, and just do the basics. If you put in the work, if you work out hard and you rest well and you eat the right nutrition, you're gonna see good results.